Hello everybody, and welcome to Flight Past. Today we're going to be looking at, this is a section of videos on D-Day, and we're going to begin with Operation Tonga. And we'll talk about this as we get going. I thought I'd start the whole video based in North London, and I'm gonna take off here and I'm going to show you some of the key locations that were the headquarters of all the different elements of the Allied forces. So if that's okay, let's just so we are talking time-wise, we're about January 1944, and we're at RAF Northolt at the moment. So as I say, this is part 1, and Operation Tonga is the beast. Okay, so we're going to do this in parts, and we'll just fly off now. I'm in a Cessna 172. And we're at the end of runway 25 at Northolt. So let's get going. My full power, brakes off. Airspeed is active, and there we go, just pull off. Bring the flaps up. Okay, and then we've engaged the autopilot there. We should be on heading, so let's just move this heading back to our course. And just reduce this speed a bit. We're not going too high, we're going to go to about 1,000 feet. There we go. Just get used to these controls. So this is RAF Northolt, and the reason why I began here is because this air base is one of the closest, well, it is the closest airfield to the West End of London, and this was used primarily during World War II for all the commanders to fly backwards and forwards, and they would come into this airfield here. It's used today. You'll remember that when the Queen died, she was brought down from Scotland and landed here. Princess Diana was brought here. It's a very short trip to central London. So a lot of the commanders, Eisenhower, Bradley, Churchill, all these people will fly into here, and then they could go off to the different headquarters in London. US Air Force headquarters, which I'm not going to see today, is in High Wycombe, in that direction. But what we are going to do is fly up towards North London. and we will be visiting the headquarters of Fighter Command. And the RAF headquarters just had the 2nd Tactical Air Force based here, and there was lots of planning going on for operations. During the Normandy campaign. So Bradley, for example, and Monty used to come back and discuss with Downing and all these other people the bombing situation. And this is it. This is Bentley Priory, and you can see a couple of a Spitfire and a Hurricane outside the building. Unfortunately, it hasn't been modelled here on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think you can remember quite a famous photos of the leaders outside here at Bentley Priory. This is North London. And now we were going to fly back into central London. So that was so I'm just giving you an idea of the sort of proximity of all these headquarters. They're all on the northwestern side of London. Presumably it means that any bombers have to come across a air defence from the southeast. And we're now heading into central London. You should be able to see Wembley Stadium over here. So what we're going to be talking about today is Operation Tonga, and I'm just giving you a heads up of where these sort of places are that we'll be talking a little bit about during planning and stuff like that. Operation Tonga was the name given to the British airborne operation on D-Day, and it was basically the idea was that paratroop elements and glider-borne troops would secure the eastern edge of the invasion sector. This was to capture bridges, eliminate artillery batteries, and secure a beachhead across the River Orme, and we'll see that when we get to some to France later. It was initially designed to be a defensive move. Sorry, defensive mode. Seize these bridges, protect the beaches until they could get it established, and then use those bridgeheads over the Orne as a stepping off point for an offensive action. Currently flying here over Regent's Park. You can see London Zoo there, the US Embassy. We've got Hyde Park over here and with the Serpentine. And we're getting into the what I would say is the government district of the UK government. Whitehall. The first building I want to show is this one here. This is the Admiralty. So when we're talking about D-Day, we're talking about Admiral Bertram Ramsay, and a lot of Operation Neptune, which was the seaborne operation, was organised and conducted from this building here. You can tell it's the senior service of the British Armed Forces. We've got Nelson's Column here. The Queen lives down that road there, and this is Horsa Guards Parade. We've got here is Downing Street, so the Prime Minister, number 10 Downing Street, is this building right here. You can probably recognise the door if I can get this thing to work. Number 10. So that's the Admiralty. So when we talk about the Admiralty, this is the building. Obviously we've got Downing Street here. This is the Foreign Office, and the Cabinet War Rooms are, I believe, on this corner of this building here. So, and we have Parliament and all that normal stuff. And the last place I want to talk about on this flight, this part, is this building up here on the curve of the river in Hammersmith. And this building here, right in the centre, is St. Paul's School. And St. Paul's School was basically Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's school. It got evacuated during the Blitz. School moved out into the west, and when Bernard Montgomery becomes the commander of 21st Army Group, he takes over his old school as his headquarters. So Eisenhower was Supreme Leader, SHAEF, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. They were actually headquartered over in High Wycombe to begin with, and then they moved down to Portsmouth. But so Monty was here. This is where the initial ideas of D-Day came about, and this is where Monty gave his chats to the Supreme Leaders. He had So we're just going to head back now to Northolt, and we'll end this part. We'll take any questions. That St. Paul's School was where Monty had a plan. The plan involved getting to Paris by D-Day plus 90. We'll talk about this obviously when we get into the actual campaign a lot. Monty got a lot of criticism for the, especially from the Americans during the Normandy campaign, because of the progress that the British weren't making, or perceived not to be making, on the eastern end. But when you look at his plan, it always was that the British Army would be the hinge of the door that Bradley and subsequently Patton would kick down the door. And yes, they were behind schedule. Probably initially, a lot of it was to do to the weather. But by the end of the Normandy campaign, off the top of my head, I think Paris actually was liberated on D-Day plus 63. We'll talk all about that when we get. The point for this Operation Tonga is that the seeds have been planted for the plan. The plan has grown from a 3-division to a 5-division front. We've 2 airborne, 2 airborne divisions on the US on the western side flank, and 1 division on the right flank. Right, let's land this baby. What I'm going to try to do during these talks is to try to keep it real time, really, and a little bit chatty. So if you've got any questions, then please just fire away. As I said in my introduction videos, I'm not I'm an amateur historian and an amateur pilot, so please shout out if you've got any other information you think we can share with people. I'm going to try and keep everything real time. I've really overshot this. And hopefully we'll just have a we'll get I won't miss too much out. So with Monty, he's Monty and Eisenhower have decided that they're not going to concentrate so much on a southern France landing. They'll move the resources from the south of France to Normandy. It delays the landings. They were planned for May, but they push it back to June to bring round landing boats and all the resources. And of course, but this allows them to increase the number of divisions from 3 to 5. So this is a very long landing. Woo. And there we are. So Monty has sent out, told all his commanders what the plan's going to be, and he's sending off instructions to his people of what he wants doing. And in the next part, I'm going to talk about the 6th Airborne Division, and then the actual proper sort of formation of the Operation Tonga plan. So, see you in part